welcome back. Second half of NFL preseason power ranking. So at number 15, I got the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, there's some crazy stat. I think 10 out of 11 of their offensive starters were first-round picks. They added guys like Todd Gurley. They got Hayden Hurst, who I think is going to be very good. You look at what Austin Hooper did in that offense. I think, sliding Hayden Hurst, who really never got the opportunity in Baltimore despite being a first-round pick due to the emergence of Mark Andrews. And Matt Ryan likes to run to the tight ends, from Tony Gonzalez to Austin Hooper. He likes his tight ends. Even Jacob Tamme was getting some good numbers with Matt Ryan. And then, you still got guys like Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. So I think their offense is no doubt has some firepower. The question really is their defense. They lost Desmond Trufant. They drafted A.J. Terrell out of Clemson to try to replace him. We'll see how he does. They still got guys like Deion Jones, who, have the potential to be very good in the middle of the field. But we'll just have to see. Once again, they're NFC South, which I think is the best division in football. So we'll see how that affects them. 14, I got the Patriots. So obviously, just got Cam Newton, and I'm a Patriots fan, so maybe a little biased, but I would never count out a Bill Belichick run team. Even though they lost, Jamie Collins, Daron Harmon, obviously Tom Brady, I wouldn't count them out just yet. They still got James White, still got Julian Edelman, still got N'Keal Harry, who was a first-round pick, who never really got to really, set his feet after getting hurt at the start of the year last year. So we'll see how they do. I still think that defense is going to be good with J.C. Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, apologies, Devin McCourty, Dante Hightower. So I'm just not one to count out a Bill Belichick run team. So that's why I think the Patriots will still be very competitive for a playoff spot. And just a reminder, there are 7 teams in each conference that make the playoffs this year, right? So they're adding that third wild card team. Only the number 1 seed in each conference gets a bye. So just something of note. 13, I got the Colts. So the Colts, I like what they did this offseason. They went from one of the worst O-lines, probably the worst in the NFL, 4 or 5 years ago, to arguably the best, right? They have Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, all those guys who really are just very talented. They also brought in Phillip Rivers. Jacoby Brissett was kind of, he was okay. Obviously, losing Andrew Luck just weeks before the season was obviously tough to deal with. They also have one of the best running back cores in the NFL, right? They got Jonathan Taylor, they have Naheem Hines, they have Jordan Wilkins, and they have Marlon Mack, right? So they have some very talented running backs, and behind that O-line, anybody can look good, really. And then, you still got T.Y. Hilton, and of course Michael Pittman, who they drafted in the second round out of USC, who is a deep threat, and he is big, and he is physical, and I think he's going to be good. I think Phillip Rivers will like him. So I have the Colts at 13. I also think they'll do well in their division. So yeah, we'll see. 12, I got the Steelers. So the Steelers, obviously they lost Big Ben last year due to injury, and I think Juju struggled in large part because of that. Same with James Conner. So I think with the return of Roethlisberger, I think they'll be pretty good. I think that their defense at the end of last year was shut down. You got guys like Devin Bush, T.J. Watt is emerging as one of the best defensive players in the NFL. And, Joe Hayden had a great year last year. So I think the Steelers are going to be good. I think they'll compete with the Ravens for the top spot in the AFC North. And I think Big Ben is definitely in for, a bounce-back year. 11, I got the Vikings. So the Vikings, again, they're talented. They did lose some people, Stephon Diggs, Everson Griffin, Xavier Rhodes. But we'll see, right? They have Dalvin Cook, who he struggled a little bit with injury last year. Kirk Cousins, who I don't know. Kirk Cousins in my opinion, he had a fine year last year. They got Adam Thielen, brought in Justin Jefferson to replace Stephon Diggs. We'll see how that works out. So Kyle Rudolph. Defense is really going to be the question. You know, you still got Eric Kendricks, Mike Hughes to replace Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith they still have. So we'll see how the Vikings do. But I think they'll be good. I think they'll definitely fight for a playoff spot. But we'll see as we get closer to the season. 10, I got the Titans. So the Titans, obviously, Ryan Tannehill played awesome second half of last year after he took over with Marcus Mariota. And, of course, Derrick Henry, led the league in rushing. Was an absolute animal in the playoffs. Almost led him to a Super Bowl appearance. Almost, single-handedly. I think the Titans have the weapons to be pretty good. Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, A.J. Brown. And I think Ryan Tannehill is a fine quarterback. I think he'll... he's definitely... We'll see. We'll see how he does in 2020. I don't know if he will continue at the rate that he was at last year. We'll see. But, you have Derrick Henry. You have a chance, really. And that defense is also good. Kevin Byard. Yeah, we'll see. 9, I got the Cowboys. So the Cowboys, one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. Dak, obviously Zeke. They got CeeDee Lamb. They have Amari Cooper. They have Michael Gallup. One of the best receiving corps in the NFL. And then you still got a nice young defense. You got Jalen Smith, Chidobe Awuzie, Lane Vander Esch. Unfortunately, they did lose Byron Jones this offseason, but I think they'll be able to recover from that. And they still have a decent O-line. Some guys are, Travis Frederick retired, but they still got Tyron Smith and Zach Martin, Lyle Collins. So I think they'll still definitely compete at the top of the NFC East along with the Eagles. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. Number 8, I got the Bills. So I'm kind of high on the Bills. I love the Bills, right? So Josh Allen, I think, is a very talented QB. I think Sean McDermott is, a great coach for him. They also got some weapons, right? Josh Allen, despite his arm strength and talent, he did not complete a pass of 35-plus yards in the air last year. And adding Stephon Diggs, I think, will definitely help that. They have Cole Beasley, and then they have Devin Singletary. I think Devin Singletary in his second year is going to absolutely break out. I think he is going to be a very good player and maybe even have 1,000 yards. Right? He was a great guy for them down the stretch. And I think Bills are not only going to make the playoffs, but I think they might win a playoff game. Number 7, I got the Bucs. Right, so the Bucs are obviously they added Brady and Gronk. And then to go along with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard. So I think, the biggest question mark is the running game right now. Right now it's Ronald Jones. We'll see. They have a decent O-line, right? They drafted Tristan Wirfs. They still have Ryan Jensen, Ali Marpet, guys like that. So I think they'll be good. Once again, NFC South. So it's going to be tough. To get out of that division, I think having the 3 wild card spots will definitely help. I think 2 of those might come from the NFC South. So we'll see what Brady can do. In new scenery with Bruce Arians, I think Bruce Arians is a pretty good coach for him. So we'll see how they do. 6, I got the Packers. So the Packers are all first season with Matt LaFleur. They had a good year, a tough end with losing in the NFC Championship, but it's all right. I think Aaron Rodgers is still a talented quarterback. Aaron Jones had a very good year. Devontae Adams is still Devontae Adams. I think the key is going to be wide receiver 2, who's going to step up, whether it be Alan Lazard, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, whoever it might be. I think if they get a solid wide receiver 2 production, then they'll definitely be, Super Bowl contenders. And then on defense, they did lose Blake Martinez to the Giants. So we'll see how they recover, but they still have, guys like Desmond Kane. And so I think Zadarius Smith. So they're a talented defense. We'll see how they do in 2020. So now for the top 5. So at 5, I got the Seattle Seahawks, right? So the Seahawks, I love Russell Wilson. I think he can take anybody and get the best out of them, and he's got some good weapons, right? Will Dissly's coming back, who had a good start to the year before he tore his Achilles, if I'm not mistaken. And then DK Metcalf for a great rookie year, and then Tyler Lockett, who is just a great wide receiver, and Chris Carson, who's I think the most underrated running back in the NFL. I think he was top 5 in rushing last year, and he's a talented guy. So I think Seahawks will be very good. Their defense is still pretty good, not quite Legion of Boom esque, but with the addition of Quandre Diggs, second half of last year, he had a couple good games. And then you got the Griffin brothers, you got Bobby Wagner still there. You got a bunch of guys for the Seahawks who I think will make them Super Bowl contenders. At 4, I have the Saints. So the Saints, still got Drew Brees, still have Michael Thomas, still have Alvin Kamara. So their offense is it's filled with firepower, right? I think Drew Brees is definitely on kind of the other side of the mountain, but we'll see. Will this be the year where he kind of tails off? It definitely could be. But we'll see. We'll see what Drew Brees does. They still have a talented defense. I think if guys like, Marcus Davenport break out, they still have Marcus Lattimore and, Marcus Williams, all those guys. So I think that the Saints, they're, once again, toughest division in football, NFC South, but I think they'll still perform this year, and they look good heading into 2020. Number 3, I have the runner-ups, the San Francisco 49ers. So they have obviously one of the best running games in the NFL. I think the best, right? You got led by guys like Raheem Mostert, and then you got Jimmy G, right? They drafted him a target in Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State, and especially with Deebo Samuel going down. Deebo Samuel, he'll probably be ready for Week 1, but Brandon Ayuk definitely has a great opportunity to cement himself and maybe even be the wide receiver 1 by the time Deebo gets healthy. They still have George or Greg Kittle for all my AWLs out there. So yeah, I think they have a great defense. They did lose DeForest Buckner, but they drafted Javon Kinlaw, and they have Solomon Thomas to replace him with. They got Fred Warner, Jimmy Ward, all those guys. So I think they'll definitely be good in 2020. Number 2, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown. They got J.K. Dobbins. So they still have a high-powered offense, right? They did lose Marshall Yanda, which I think will be tough, but they still have some good guys on the O-line. Ronnie Stanley. And then their defense is still locked down, right? They drafted Patrick Queen, who I like. He's a rangy, speedy inside linebacker. And then you got a bunch of other studs on the defense. Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith, all those guys. So they'll definitely be the same old Ravens battling with the Steelers for the top of the AFC North. I'm interested to see how Lamar does in his third year, and is the year after winning the MVP. So, number 1, I have the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs didn't lose too many pieces from that Super Bowl winning team. They have some great weapons on offense. Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damian Williams, Travis Kelce, Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, right? That's all. And Patrick Mahomes, right? So that, it's one of the best. I think it's the best offense in the NFL, especially with Andy Reid at the helm. So we'll see, right? If their defense can, continue that bend but don't break type, mentality. They'll definitely, their offense will take them places, right? They got Frank Clark on the D-line, and some other guys on defense that have the potential to, play really well, but it's it's really, it starts and ends with the offense, right? If the offense can put up, 35 points a game, and their defense, they still have to do their job, but it's not as demanding as it would be if they were only putting up, in the teens or something like that. So I think the Chiefs are number one heading into 2020. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, and we'll see ya.